court case in Denton County, right?
We have a constitutional case working its way through, and it's now in the hands of the Tarrant Appellate Court.
Okay.
So with regard to what's happening
In your case?
at the Tarrant Appellate Court, it really comes down to a very simple premise. Based on this discussion, either the law exists or it doesn't. And that, in essence, is what is in front of the court. Now, there's a whole bunch of documents and all sorts of statements being made.
But who are you in the case against?
Denton Central Appraisal District and Don Spencer individually. And that doesn't prohibit me from filing additional lawsuits against all sorts of people for the 2024 cases because they step right back into it in the year 2024. So they've got multiple problems coming, which is why I keep saying, ideally, I'd like to have this at the Supreme Court, but I believe the appellate court will do what's right. I believe we will win, and that will get pushed back into the local Denton court, and we'll see what happens there. Again, this is part of that process that I'm not happy about, and it's very time-consuming and it's expensive. But the bottom line is we are where we are. Either the law exists or it doesn't. Either there is due process under the Fifth and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, or there isn't. And if they win, then there is no law because they've just 10 pages say there is no law and they're violating it. So therefore, if there is no due process and fraud is being committed on a rampant scale because of all the bankruptcies underneath the hood where the fraud is being created to cover up the bankruptcies, which is what this is, then there is no law. If there is no law, then please explain to me why any of us are paying property taxes. Do you know,
right,
in one of our lawsuits, 2 or 3 years ago, there was what's called a Rule 11 agreement. The Rule 11 agreement was that defense counsel agreed, we will turn over all the mathematical formulas to you. That never happened. They violated the Rule 11 agreement.
And this is Denton County?
This is Denton County. Over and above that, you have to understand something that's crucial here. Don Spencer stood in front of the board under threat of perjury and literally said, we took 60,000 properties out of the database, manipulated them, and put them back. Do you understand what that means?
No, I don't.
Because that is the violation of what you were just asking me. In other words, you can have everything you want in USPAP, and it doesn't matter because he overrode it. The lady who did it, her name was Rebecca Townsend. A, what business do you have taking anything out of a database, manipulating it and putting it back? B, how did you even know that you could do it? C, were the 60,000 the right number? Probably not. How long have you been doing it, Mr. Spencer? How long has Rebecca been manipulating the data? For how many years? You see the problem? It's all connected. They don't give a damn about USPAP. They don't give a damn about the income or appraisal process because it's got nothing to do with the goal. The goal is steal as much money as you can to cover up the fraud that we've created over multiple years.
No, but the case itself.
Oh, the case itself is real simple, members of the court, your honors. Either the law exists or it doesn't.
The chief appraiser and everybody under should be following, correct?
Should be following or put in jail. They're not following it. It's clear they're not following it. We've got a mountain of, there's gigabytes of evidence here. Right. They're not following it. Arrest them, let the public sue them for the damages. And by the way, under RICO, you can actually do that. You can actually go back and take the assets. See, if they have a house, they bought a house, you can go and get their house. You flip the switch. They've been stealing from everybody else, flip the switch.
Wow. This leads me to one of my last questions. Whistleblowers or people that are coming forward to confirm a lot of what you're saying?
She actually got on the ARB and spent 6 years undercover, working as a mole to document this. She knew that the system was corrupt. I didn't know her.
Wow.
I had no knowledge of her.
Wow.
But through this process, she floated up. But she is the real deal. She's a mole. The file she sent has over 11,000 properties in it that the state comptroller is fully aware of. In her case, told the attorneys at the state comptroller's office, stand down. I was told by the FBI to file my complaints with the state comptroller over and above TDLR and TALCB, which I did. The response was, we don't have the authority to enforce. I want to show this to you. This is basically what the FBI wishes they could put together. This was put together for the benefit of the judge. Everything that's in blue, that's highlighted in blue, is a live link to the evidence. On this column right here is the state comptroller. And at the bottom of that column in red says no enforcement. That word no enforcement occurs on several of these categories of what these job descriptions are. This lines up the people, the job description. These are all the co-conspirators involved in Denton Central Appraisal District.
I'm going to call this video, Where is the Math?
Everything in yellow, by the way, these are the people that signed an oath. You know what an oath of office says? To protect and defend the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Texas. Please explain to me how any of these people have not broken their oath. They've clearly violated their oath. They're clearly involved in a criminal conspiracy to defraud the public. They're caught. There is no way out. And the only mechanism to fix this system is to shut it down. This cannot be fixed.
We understand now clearly what they are doing. What I think the public wonders is what they should be doing. How should these CADs be determining value?
Absolutely, the law is clear. USPAP is a good document. There's nothing wrong with it. We've pulled it apart. We built mathematical models based on USPAP. There's something called standard deviation. You can call it Gaussian channel, you can call it all sorts of things. But do you know that inside of USPAP, it's a requirement? Standard deviation is a requirement. Do you know that it's actually mentioned in the Texas Property Tax Code? It's a requirement. Well, standard deviation is a Gaussian channel. And what it says is that if something is an outlier, it would be, in the case of a USPAP, outside of a half standard deviation. So USPAP says you can be plus or minus 10% one way or the other on the value. Okay, that's perfectly fine, as long as the values that you're looking at are like kind. How do you determine what is like kind? Well, the thing with a Gaussian channel, and we use standard deviation in virtually every single thing we do. When we're under construction, we use it. And then we extrapolate standard deviation and we roll it into Monte Carlo analysis. And then we can roll it into Black-Scholes formula to determine values. So we can get into all sorts of sophisticated levels of how to use it. But the point is that a standard deviation, USPAP requires 10% up or down, and that'll tell you that you're fairly close. And then you can tweak, just like you were saying, you can tweak it from there. You can't tweak something that's outside of that 10% bracket, up or down. Well, in a standard deviation, that 10% is the equivalent of a half standard deviation move. The purpose of that is to say, okay, if I've got something that's one standard deviation over here, okay, I got to get rid of it because that's not in a half standard. 2 standard, I got to get rid of it. 3, I got to get rid of it. It's not real. Well, on my building, just as an example, okay, my office building, we won the lawsuits at $750,000, multiple years in a row. Right. They've turned around the following year, 2024, and now bumped it to $2.8 million. Okay, that's a 4 standard deviation move. A year prior, or 3 years prior, we found an 8 standard deviation move. You know what the odds of an 8 standard deviation move are? 1 in 390 billion. Here's the problem. There's only 510,000 tax accounts in Denton County. Ergo, fraud. And that's why I keep saying there's no fix for this. They're lying, they're using subjective values, they're not adhering to USPAP, they're not adhering to a single appraisal standard ever written, and they don't care because they've been able to get away with it until challenged recently. And that's why we're hammering so hard. We're trying to get mom and pop to be able to stand up for themselves and say, we're not going to take this anymore, we're going to fix it, and we will sue everybody in sight in order to stop it, or at some point, the government stand up and simply say, okay, we've had enough, we're going to shut it down, and we're going to return the power back to the people. And that money keeps circulating. Don't make any mistake. I mean, taxes have to get paid. All I'm saying is they have to be quantifiable. And you've got to leave mom and pop alone. The idea you can steal their house from underneath them, go to hell.